Today I want to talk about something you've probably heard before, or maybe even said about yourself. I have commitment issues. It sounds like a character flaw, like you just can't stick with things. Relationships, jobs, projects, even hobbies. You get excited, you lean in, and then something shifts. You pull back. You ghost. You let it fall apart and tell yourself, maybe I'm just not built for this. But what if that's not actually the truth? What if it's not about commitment at all? What if what you've been calling commitment issues is actually something much deeper? Something that got installed way earlier than you realize. Here's the idea. You don't fear commitment. You fear what commitment might cost you. And even more than that, you fear what staying might say about who you are, because at some point, you learned that leaving first equals safety. Let that sit for a second. If you've ever felt that itch to run, not because something is wrong, but because it suddenly feels too real, too vulnerable, too permanent. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. You don't bail because you're reckless. You bail because some part of you believes it's safer to exit than to be seen fully. To stay means exposure. To stay means being known. And that, to your nervous system, can feel like a threat, especially if you grew up in chaos. Or unpredictability, or if love and acceptance were tied to performance or conditions. Somewhere along the line you started equating consistency with danger, because when things started to feel stable, that's when the rug got pulled. So your body adapted. It learned to pull the plug first. End things before they end you. Leave before you're left. Sabotage before you get hurt. And now as an adult it shows up everywhere. You call off a healthy relationship, but chase the ones that can't love you back. You quit projects that are actually working, but obsess over ones that never had a shot. You abandon opportunities right when they start to gain traction. Not because you're lazy, but because some part of you is waiting for the hit, the disappointment, the failure. And if you leave first, at least you're in control. That's not a character flaw, that's a survival strategy. But the problem is, the version of you that needed that strategy isn't in charge anymore. Or at least, they don't have to be. Let's talk about how this all got programmed, because this isn't just some quirky adult trait. It didn't come from nowhere. This pattern, the urge to leave first, to stay one step ahead of rejection, to sabotage before it gets serious, it usually gets wired in early. And not from one big moment, but from a series of tiny ones that slowly teach you the same message. Safety is control. And control means being the one who leaves. It can start in childhood, but you don't need trauma in the dramatic sense. Sometimes it's just unpredictability, inconsistency, affection that comes and goes. Or moments where you were told, directly or indirectly, that love had conditions. Maybe you were praised when you achieved. Maybe silence was the price of peace. Maybe you watched people around you hurt each other, then pretend everything was fine. So you learned to read the room, shrink yourself, and stay ready. Because if you could just stay one step ahead emotionally, mentally, even physically, maybe you wouldn't get caught in the mess. And, it worked. Back then it kept you safe. You knew when to back off. You knew how to disappear emotionally, even if you were still in the room. You learned how to withdraw love from others. And, honestly, from yourself. But now? Now you're an adult trying to build something. A relationship, a career, a version of yourself that actually feels stable. And the problem is, that same wiring is still running in the background. Every time something starts to feel good, your brain scans for danger. Every time someone gets too close, your nervous system whispers, "Get out." And every time you try to sit still in a new, better version of yourself, some part of you starts shaking the walls. Not because it's bad, but because it's unfamiliar. And to your brain, unfamiliar is unsafe. So you pull away. Not dramatically, not with fireworks, just a slow fade. A missed text, a task you procrastinate, a shift in tone, just enough distance to feel in control again. But control isn't the same thing as peace. And leaving first doesn't actually make the fear go away, it just resets the cycle. It gives you a hit of relief, but leaves you back at the start. So how do you break it? Not by forcing yourself to stay, not by shaming yourself into pushing through, but by learning how to recognize the exit impulse for what it is, a leftover reflex from a time when you didn't have power. And now, you do. Here's the thing about this pattern. It's not always loud, it's not always a dramatic breakup, or quitting a job on a whim, or ghosting a friend overnight. Most of the time, the way you leave looks a lot like staying. You don't disappear. You disconnect. You go quiet emotionally. You delay. You distract yourself with something else like a new goal, a different person, a busier schedule. You become so occupied that no one even notices you've left, but you know. You know because your energy is no longer in it. You're still showing up on the surface, but inside you're halfway out the door. This is honestly the quiet form of leaving first. It's the kind that doesn't cause a scene, but yeah, it costs you all the same. And you know, it really shows up everywhere. In your work, you take a job you wanted. Then, well, you stop advocating for yourself the second it feels too big. You tell yourself you're burned out when really you're just scared to fail in front of people. In your relationships, you start strong, deeply present, emotionally available. But when it feels like they really see you, not the polished version, but you, something tightens. You start pulling away in little ways, not answering right away, withholding affection, convincing yourself they probably don't care that much anyway. Even in your personal goals, you get excited about change. You start the project, sign up for the course, make the plan. But then, you know, it gets real. And some voice inside says, who are you trying to be? So you sabotage. Quietly, subtly, just enough to stop it before it gets too far. Because deep down, you're still operating from that old contract. If I don't fully commit, I can't be fully disappointed. It's self-preservation. But honestly, it's also self-abandonment. And here's the wild part. Most people never notice they're doing it, because the world rewards productivity, surface-level success, and emotional avoidance. You look together, you look busy, you might even look in demand. But underneath there's a quiet loop playing out, start something, feel seen, feel exposed, back away. Tell yourself it wasn't right, start something new, and it feels like forward motion, but really, it's a slow orbit around the same fear. If I stay too long, I'll get hurt. If I care too much, I'll lose control. If I'm fully in, there's more to lose. But here's what I want you to hear. You are not fragile. You've already survived what you were afraid of. The pain, the chaos, the instability. Now you're just reacting to shadows. And those shadows only have power when you don't name them. So that's the next layer. What does it actually look like to choose to stay without forcing it, without faking it, and without losing yourself in the process? Because commitment isn't about trapping yourself, it's about building something safe enough that you don't have to run anymore. So here's where this becomes real. Let's say you catch it, that urge to pull away. Not because something's wrong, but because it feels too real, too honest, too permanent. You feel the panic rise in your chest. The reflex to sabotage, to send the weird text, to pick the fight, to pretend you're too busy, to emotionally evacuate before anyone notices. In the past, you might have followed that feeling, trusted it as truth, but now you pause. You don't fight it, you just recognize it. That's the shift, not fixing it, just seeing it for what it is, a memory dressed up as instinct. Because when you grew up learning that people leave, or that love costs too much, or that you only matter when you perform, of course you learned to leave first. That wasn't weakness, that was intelligence. That was your nervous system doing its job. But it's not the job anymore. You're not in the same danger. You're not a kid managing chaos. You're an adult now, with agency and voice and boundaries. And maybe, for the first time, the chance to stay. But, staying doesn't mean forever. It doesn't mean tolerating what hurts. It doesn't mean ignoring red flags or trying to prove something. Staying just means, you stop running by default. You pause when the panic shows up. You breathe through the discomfort instead of, just trying to solve it. You let yourself be seen, even when your body really wants to shut the door. You let something play out longer than you usually would, just to see if the outcome is different when you don't control it. And yeah, sometimes it still ends. Sometimes the job doesn't work out, the person doesn't stay, the goal shifts. But this time it wasn't fear that made the decision, it was you. And that's the win. Because commitment, the real kind, isn't about proving loyalty. It's about proving to yourself that you can stay in the room long enough to learn something new, about them, about the world, about yourself. It's about knowing you don't have to leave to be safe anymore. You can stay, you can speak, you can let things get good, and trust that you'll know what to do if they don't. And when that happens, you'll feel it. Not like fireworks, not like some massive breakthrough, but a quiet moment where your nervous system softens, where your body doesn't brace for the exit, where you feel, maybe for the first time, like you're not waiting to be left. You're just here, present, enough, safe, without having to run. If this video gave you something to think about, like the video, so more people see it. And if you want more real smart, no fluff videos like this, hit subscribe. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It's not medical, financial, legal, or lifestyle advice. Always talk to a qualified professional before making changes to your health, finances, lifestyle, or routines. Do your own research before acting on anything in this video. What you're hearing is based on public research and ideas available at the time of publication, and it may change as the world